The year was 1891, and the small town of Blackwood Haven was abuzz with excitement. The wedding of Miss Eleanor Pembroke and the mysterious, wealthy newcomer, Mr. Victor Blackwood, was the social event of the season. Eleanor was the daughter of Judge Thomas Pembroke, one of the most respected men in town, and Victor had arrived 6 months prior, purchasing the abandoned Thornfield Manor on the edge of town, quickly establishing himself as a gentleman of means and refined tastes. Our story begins 3 days before the wedding, when Eleanor's closest friend, Miss Catherine Winters, arrives at the Pembroke estate. Catherine had traveled from Boston upon receiving Eleanor's letter announcing her engagement, a letter that had struck Catherine as oddly formal and devoid of the warmth that usually characterized her friend's correspondence. The carriage rattles along the cobblestone streets, passing by gas lamps being lit as dusk falls over Blackwood Haven. Catherine adjusts her traveling hat and peers out at the familiar buildings, now festooned with decorations for the upcoming nuptials. Paper lanterns and white ribbons adorn the storefronts, and even from the carriage, she can hear whispered conversations about the grand wedding to come. The Pembroke estate stands at the end of Maple Avenue, a grand Victorian home with a sweeping front lawn and a circular driveway. As Catherine's carriage pulls up, she notices the house is alive with activity. Servants rushing in and out, carrying flowers, linens, and various decorations. A footman helps Catherine from the carriage, and she has barely set foot on the ground when she hears a familiar voice. "Catherine, at last you've arrived." Eleanor Pembroke rushes down the front steps, her dark hair pulled back in an elegant chignon, wearing a fashionable day dress of pale blue silk. Catherine embraces her friend warmly, then pulls back to look at her. "Let me look at you, my dear," Catherine says, studying Eleanor's face. "The bride-to-be. Though I must say you look rather pale. Are the wedding preparations taking their toll?" Eleanor's smile falters momentarily. "Oh, it's nothing. Just a touch of anemia," the doctor says. "Victor has been most attentive, insisting I rest frequently and take iron tonics." Catherine nods, though something about Eleanor's demeanor strikes her as odd. Her friend's usual vivacity seems diminished, her movements more measured and careful than Catherine remembers. "Come inside," Eleanor says, taking Catherine's arm. "Mother has prepared the blue guest room for you, and I have so much to tell you about the wedding plans." As they enter the grand foyer, Catherine notices the usual family portraits that line the walls, generations of Pembrokes watching over the household. New among them is a painting of Eleanor and Victor, clearly commissioned for their engagement. Catherine pauses to study it. Victor Blackwood is undeniably handsome, tall and elegant, with sharp cheekbones, pale skin, and dark, penetrating eyes. In the portrait, his hand rests possessively on Eleanor's shoulder, his expression serious and intense. "Your Mr. Blackwood is quite the striking figure," Catherine comments, though the artist seems to have captured a rather intense quality about him. Eleanor glances at the portrait, a strange expression crossing her face. Victor is intense, yes. He feels things deeply. It's one of the qualities that drew me to him. They continue upstairs to Catherine's room, where a maid is already unpacking her trunks. The room is decorated in shades of blue and cream, with a large window overlooking the gardens below. "Now," Catherine says, removing her gloves and hat, "tell me everything. Your letter was woefully short on details. How did you meet this mysterious Mr. Blackwood? And how did he convince the daughter of Judge Pembroke to agree to marry him after knowing him for just 6 months? Eleanor settles onto the window seat, smoothing her skirts. "It was at the winter solstice ball. Father had invited Victor as a courtesy to welcome him to town. He had just purchased Thornfield Manor and was having it renovated. We danced, and, oh, Catherine, when he looks at you, it's as if he can see into your very soul." Catherine raises an eyebrow. "That sounds rather intense indeed." He began calling the next day. Father was pleased. The Blackwood name is apparently quite distinguished in Europe, though Victor doesn't speak much of his family. He mentioned they're from Romania originally, but have estates in several countries. "And what business brings him to our little corner of New England?" Catherine asks, joining Eleanor on the window seat. A shadow passes over Eleanor's face. "Research," he says. "He's writing a book on American folklore and superstitions. He finds our local legends particularly fascinating." Catherine notes how Eleanor's hands fidget with the fabric of her dress, a nervous habit she's had since childhood. "And you, Eleanor, are you truly happy with this match?" Eleanor's eyes meet Catherine's, and for a moment Catherine sees something that looks almost like fear. But then Eleanor smiles, though it doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Of course I am. Victor is..." Everything I could want. Educated, cultured, attentive. Father approves wholeheartedly, and Mother is delighted to be gaining such a distinguished son-in-law. Before Catherine can press further, there's a knock at the door. Mrs. Pembroke enters, elegant in a mauve afternoon dress, her graying hair perfectly arranged. "Catherine, my dear, how wonderful to see you," she says, embracing her daughter's friend. "I trust your journey was comfortable? You must be exhausted." "Not at all, Mrs. Pembroke. I'm eager to help with any last-minute wedding preparations." Mrs. Pembroke beams. "Such a dear girl. Well, you'll have your chance. We're having dinner with the groom tonight. Victor has been most insistent on meeting Eleanor's closest friend." After Mrs. Pembroke leaves, Catherine turns to Eleanor. "Your mother seems quite taken with your fiancé." "Everyone is," Eleanor says quietly. "Victor has a way of charming people." That evening, Catherine dresses for dinner with particular care, selecting a fashionable gown of deep burgundy velvet. She is curious about this man who has so quickly captured her friend's heart, and it seems her entire family's approval. Downstairs, the drawing room is lit by dozens of candles, casting a warm glow over the assembled company. Judge Pembroke, a distinguished man with silver hair and impressive side whiskers, is deep in conversation with a tall figure standing by the fireplace. As Catherine enters, all eyes turn to her, including the dark, intense gaze of Victor Blackwood. In person, he is even more striking than in his portrait, impeccably dressed in a black evening suit that contrasts sharply with his pale complexion. His dark hair is swept back from a high forehead, and when he smiles, Catherine notices his teeth are perfectly white and even, except for the canines, which seem slightly more pronounced than normal. "Ah, Miss Winters," Victor says, his voice rich and deep with the faintest trace of an accent. "At last we meet. Eleanor has told me so much about you." He takes her hand and bows over it, his lips barely brushing her skin. His touch is cool, almost cold, and Catherine suppresses a slight shiver. "Mr. Blackwood, I've heard a great deal about you as well." Victor's smile widens. "All good things, I hope?" "Mostly curiosity, I must admit. You've managed to sweep my dear friend off her feet in remarkably short order." A flash of something, amusement, challenge, crosses Victor's face. "When one finds what one has been searching for, Miss Winters, why delay? Life is short for most people." Throughout dinner, Catherine observes Victor closely. He eats very little, merely pushing the food around on his plate while keeping up a stream of engaging conversation. He is knowledgeable on a wide range of topics: literature, music, art, even politics, though his perspectives sometimes seem oddly antiquated. When Judge Pembroke mentions recent improvements in electric lighting, Victor visibly grimaces. "I find such harsh illumination most unpleasant," he says. "Nothing compares to the gentle glow of candlelight, don't you agree, Eleanor?" Eleanor, seated beside him, nods immediately. "Yes, Victor, of course." Catherine notices that Eleanor speaks little during the meal, her responses to Victor's occasional questions immediate and agreeable. Once, when a servant accidentally drops a spoon, Eleanor flinches violently, earning a sharp glance from Victor that makes her immediately compose herself. After dinner, Judge Pembroke suggests brandy in the library for the gentlemen, while the ladies retire to the drawing room. As Eleanor rises, Victor catches her hand, pressing a lingering kiss to her wrist, just above her pulse point. Eleanor's breath catches audibly, and Catherine doesn't miss the way her friend's pupils dilate at the contact. In the drawing room, Mrs. Pembroke chatters excitedly about wedding preparations, while Catherine watches Eleanor, who seems distracted, repeatedly touching the spot on her wrist where Victor had kissed her. "Eleanor," Catherine says when Mrs. Pembroke steps out to speak with the housekeeper, "are you feeling well? You've barely touched your food and you seem distant." Eleanor startles as if waking from a trance. "I'm fine, truly. Just wedding nerves, I suppose. And Victor's diet has influenced my own. He believes in eating very lightly in the evenings. He seems to have influenced you in many ways," Catherine observes carefully. Eleanor's expression turns defensive. "Is that so wrong? Isn't that what marriage is? Two people becoming one. Not to the point where one person disappears entirely," Catherine says gently. Before Eleanor can respond, the door opens and Victor enters, followed by Judge Pembroke. Victor immediately crosses to Eleanor, placing a hand on her shoulder. "My dear, you look fatigued. Perhaps you should retire early this evening. Tomorrow will be a busy day with the final wedding preparations." Though phrased as a suggestion, Catherine notes it sounds more like a command. Eleanor rises immediately. "Yes, I am rather tired. Good night, Father, Mother. Good night, Catherine. She kisses Catherine's cheek, her lips cool against Catherine's skin. We'll talk more tomorrow. Victor offers to escort Eleanor upstairs, and as they leave, Catherine notices how closely Eleanor walks beside him, almost as if drawn by an invisible force. They make a striking couple, don't they? Judge Pembroke says, pouring himself another brandy. Blackwood's quite the catch. Educated at Oxford, traveled extensively throughout Europe and his family connections. Did you know he's distantly related to royalty in Eastern Europe? He seems quite devoted to Eleanor, Catherine says diplomatically. Mrs. Pembroke sighs happily. And so protective, always concerned about her health, her diet, her rest. Not many gentlemen pay such close attention to their fiancé's well-being. Catherine murmurs agreement, though privately she finds Victor's attention less caring and more controlling. But she keeps her concerns to herself, not wishing to upset Eleanor's parents, who are clearly enchanted with their future son-in-law. Later that night, unable to sleep, Catherine wanders to the window of her room, gazing out at the moonlit garden below. A movement catches her eye, a figure in white moving among the rose bushes. Eleanor, in her nightgown, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Catherine watches as Eleanor walks purposefully toward the garden gate, as if responding to some silent call. Just beyond the gate, a tall, dark figure waits. Victor, his pale face luminous in the moonlight. Catherine leans forward, straining to see better. Victor takes Eleanor in his arms, bending his head to her neck. Eleanor seems to go limp against him, her head falling back. Though Catherine can't hear anything through the closed window, she can see Eleanor's expression, a mixture of ecstasy and pain. Alarmed, Catherine grabs her dressing gown, intending to go downstairs and interrupt whatever is happening. But by the time she reaches the garden, both Eleanor and Victor are gone, with only the swinging gate indicating anyone had been there at all. The next morning, Eleanor appears at breakfast looking even paler than before, with dark circles under her eyes. She wears a high-necked dress despite the warm June weather, and when she reaches for the teapot, Catherine notices her hand trembling slightly. "Did you sleep well?" Catherine asks, studying her friend's face. Eleanor touches her collar nervously. "Yes, quite well, thank you." "Really? I thought I saw you in the garden last night." Eleanor's teacup clatters against its saucer. "The garden? No, you must have been dreaming, Catherine. I was asleep all night." Catherine doesn't press the issue, but her concern deepens. Throughout the day, as they attend to final wedding preparations, checking floral arrangements, confirming details with the caterers, making sure Eleanor's wedding gown is perfectly altered, she observes her friend closely. Eleanor seems distracted, almost lethargic, brightening only when Victor arrives in the afternoon. Victor brings a gift for his bride, a stunning ruby necklace set in antique gold. As he fastens it around Eleanor's neck, his fingers linger on the clasp. "It matches your eyes," he murmurs, though Catherine notices that Eleanor's eyes are blue, not red. Yet for a moment, when Eleanor turns to thank him, Catherine could swear there is a reddish gleam in her friend's eyes, quickly gone. That evening, the rehearsal dinner is held at Thornfield Manor, giving the wedding party their first glimpse of Victor's home. The manor is imposing, a Gothic structure of dark stone and many gables, set back from the road and surrounded by ancient oak trees. Inside, it has been lavishly restored, though Victor has chosen a rather somber decorating scheme. Heavy velvet drapes, dark wood furnishings, and very little in the way of mirrors or reflective surfaces, Catherine notes. The dinner itself is elegant, with footmen serving course after course on fine china bearing an unfamiliar crest, presumably the Blackwood family arms. Again, Victor eats very little, though he makes a show of appreciating the wine, a dark red vintage that Catherine finds unpleasantly metallic on her tongue. After dinner, Victor offers to show Judge Pembroke his library, which apparently contains many rare volumes. Mrs. Pembroke engages Victor's housekeeper in conversation about the wedding breakfast arrangements, leaving Catherine and Eleanor momentarily alone in the grand drawing room. "Eleanor," Catherine says quietly, taking her friend's cold hands in her own, "if there's anything troubling you, anything at all, you know you can confide in me." Eleanor's eyes fill with tears. "Oh, Catherine, The drawing room door opens abruptly, and Victor enters, his gaze immediately finding Eleanor. "My dear, are you well? You look distressed." Eleanor quickly wipes away her tears. "Just a moment of pre-wedding emotion, Victor. Catherine was comforting me." Victor's dark eyes assess Catherine coolly. How kind. But perhaps what my fiancé needs now is rest, not emotional conversations that upset her. I wasn't, Catherine begins, but Victor has already moved to Eleanor's side, helping her to her feet. I've called for your carriage, he tells the Pembrokes, who have followed him into the room. Eleanor needs her rest before the big day tomorrow. Judge Pembroke nods approvingly. Quite right, quite right. Can't have the bride with dark circles under her eyes, can we? On the carriage ride back to the Pembroke estate, Catherine tries once more to speak privately with Eleanor, but Mrs. Pembroke sits between them, chattering excitedly about tomorrow's ceremony. That night, Catherine again sees Eleanor slip out to the garden, again meet Victor at the gate, and again submit to his embrace. This time, Catherine is determined to follow, but by the time she reaches the garden, they have vanished into the darkness. A search of the grounds reveals nothing, and Catherine returns to the house, her worry for her friend deepening. The wedding day dawns bright and clear. The Pembroke house is a flurry of activity, florists arriving with arrangements of white roses and lilies, caterers setting up in the large tent erected on the lawn, servants polishing silver and arranging chairs in the garden where the ceremony will take place. In Eleanor's bedroom, Catherine helps her friend dress for her wedding day. Eleanor is unnaturally quiet as the maid arranges her dark hair, adorning it with orange blossoms and securing her veil. Eleanor, Catherine says softly, when the maid steps out to fetch the wedding shoes, this is your last chance. If you have any doubts, any at all. I don't, Eleanor interrupts, her voice stronger than it has been in days. I love Victor. I want to be with him. Forever. Something about the way she says forever sends a chill down Catherine's spine. But before she can respond, Mrs. Pembroke enters, exclaiming over how beautiful Eleanor looks in her wedding gown of cream silk and Brussels lace. The ceremony is set for noon, an unusual time for a wedding, but Victor had insisted, claiming an old family tradition. As the guests begin to arrive, the finest families of Blackwood Haven and surrounding towns, Catherine takes her place at the front as Eleanor's maid of honor, trying to suppress her growing sense of unease. Victor arrives precisely on time, handsome in formal morning dress, accompanied by his best man, a sallow-faced gentleman introduced as Mr. Renfield, apparently an old family associate from Europe. Catherine notices that despite the warm June day, Victor shows no signs of discomfort in his formal attire, not a drop of perspiration on his pale brow. The wedding proceeds with all the pomp and circumstance befitting the daughter of Judge Pembroke. Eleanor, on her father's arm, walks down the garden path strewn with rose petals, her face hidden behind her veil. The minister, a nervous-looking young man who keeps glancing anxiously at Victor, begins the ceremony. As the minister speaks of holy matrimony and lifelong commitment, Catherine's attention is drawn to the photographer setting up his camera at the side of the gathering. Wedding photography is a relatively new innovation, and Judge Pembroke has spared no expense in hiring Mr. Sullivan, who has brought his finest equipment to capture the day's events. The vows are exchanged, Eleanor's voice barely audible as she promises to love, honor, and obey. Victor's responses are clear and confident, his eyes never leaving Eleanor's veiled face. When he slips the gold band onto her finger, Catherine notices that his own hand bears an unusual ring, a heavy gold signet with a dark red stone that catches the sunlight with an almost blood-like gleam. I now pronounce you man and wife, the minister declares, his voice cracking slightly. You may kiss the bride. Victor lifts Eleanor's veil, revealing her face, pale but composed, her blue eyes luminous with unshed tears. As their lips meet, a cloud passes over the sun, casting a momentary shadow over the garden. Several guests shiver despite the warm day. The wedding breakfast follows in the tent on the Pembroke lawn. Crystal glasses of champagne are raised in toast after toast to the happy couple. Victor, seated beside his new wife at the head table, is charm personified, thanking the guests for their good wishes. Yet Catherine notices he doesn't touch the wedding cake, nor any of the elaborate dishes prepared for the occasion. As the celebration continues, Mr. Sullivan, the photographer, approaches the head table. If it pleases you, Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood, I would like to take your formal wedding portrait now, while the light is still good. Victor's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. Must we? Eleanor is likely fatigued from the ceremony. Oh, but Victor, Eleanor says, Father has paid Mr. Sullivan a considerable sum, and I would so like to have a portrait of us on our wedding day. After a moment's hesitation, Victor nods. Very well, my dear, if it pleases you. Mr. E. Sullivan leads them to a spot he has prepared at one end of the tent, a backdrop of white flowers, with a small table beside it holding a silver hand mirror, part of the traditional wedding portrait setup, to capture the bride's beauty from multiple angles. If you would stand here, sir, Sullivan directs Victor, positioning him slightly to one side of the backdrop, and the bride here, beside your husband. As Sullivan fusses with his camera, making final adjustments, Catherine watches from nearby, sipping her champagne. She sees Eleanor reach for the silver hand mirror on the table, admiring her reflection. "How do I look, Victor?" she asks, turning the mirror slightly to include him in its reflection. But the mirror shows only Eleanor, her veil and flowers, and the white backdrop behind them. Where Victor should be reflected, there is nothing at all. Catherine gasps, her champagne glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the ground. The sound draws the attention of nearby guests, including Mr. Sullivan, who looks up from his camera. Eleanor is staring at the mirror in confusion, then horror. "Victor, the mirror doesn't—" Victor moves with astonishing speed, snatching the mirror from Eleanor's hand and hurling it to the ground, where it shatters into countless silvery shards. "Clumsy servants," he says loudly, his voice smooth despite the tension evident in his stance, placing such a fragile object so precariously. But Sullivan has seen it too. The photographer's face drains of color as he looks from the broken mirror to Victor's face. You had no reflection. How is that possible unless what, Mr. Sullivan?" Victor's voice is dangerously soft. Sullivan backs away, bumping into his camera stand. "Unless the old stories are true," he whispers, barely audible. A murmur runs through the guests. Judge Pembroke steps forward, his expression concerned. "What's all this about? Victor, what's happened?" "Nothing of consequence, sir," Victor says smoothly. "A broken mirror, superstitious nonsense from an overwrought photographer. Perhaps Mr. Sullivan has indulged too freely in the champagne." But Sullivan continues backing away, making a strange sign with his fingers. A cross, Catherine realizes. "Stay back," he warns, his voice rising. "I know what you are." Victor's expression changes, his sophisticated veneer falling away to reveal something ancient and predatory. His eyes seem to glow with an inner fire, and when he speaks, his voice has a hypnotic quality that makes Catherine's thoughts fog. "You know nothing," Victor says, each word precise and compelling. "You saw a trick of the light, nothing more. You will apologize for your disruption of my wedding day, pack your equipment, and leave." Sullivan's face goes slack, his eyes glazing over. "A trick of the light," he repeats mechanically. I apologize for the disruption. I'll leave immediately." The guests watch in confusion as Sullivan gathers his camera with jerky movements and hurries from the tent. Victor turns to the assembled company, his charming smile back in place. "My apologies for the unpleasant interruption. The man is clearly unwell. Please continue enjoying yourselves. My bride and I will now depart for our wedding journey." Eleanor stands beside him, her face a mask of confusion and dawning horror. She looks at Catherine, a silent plea in her eyes. Catherine steps forward. "Eleanor, perhaps you should rest before traveling. You look unwell." "My wife is fine," Victor says, his hand closing around Eleanor's wrist. "We have a train to catch." Judge Pembroke frowns. "But the celebration is meant to continue until evening, and Eleanor does look rather pale." "Father, Eleanor begins, but Victor interrupts. "My dear father-in-law, I insist. Eleanor and I have a private carriage waiting to take us to the station. Our luggage has already been sent ahead." Something in Victor's tone makes Judge Pembroke step back, nodding deferentially despite his obvious confusion. "Of course, if you think it best." Catherine watches helplessly as Victor leads Eleanor away, her friend looking back over her shoulder with eyes full of fear. The guests murmur among themselves, the festive atmosphere of the wedding breakfast now strained and uncertain. Acting on instinct, Catherine follows the newlyweds out of the tent, keeping a distance but determined not to let Eleanor leave without at least attempting to help her. She sees them enter the house, presumably for Eleanor to change from her wedding gown into traveling clothes. Catherine slips into the house through a side door, making her way quickly upstairs to Eleanor's bedroom. She arrives just as Eleanor is emerging, now dressed in a fashionable traveling suit of deep burgundy, Victor close behind her. "Eleanor!" Catherine calls. "Wait!" Eleanor turns, her face lighting with relief at the sight of her friend. "Catherine!" "I need to speak with you." "There's no time," Victor says curtly. "The carriage is waiting." Catherine steps forward, placing herself between Victor and the staircase. Surely you can spare 2 minutes for Eleanor to say a proper goodbye to her oldest friend. Victor's eyes narrow, and for a moment, Catherine feels a pressure in her mind, as if something is trying to force its way into her thoughts. She shakes her head, fighting against the strange sensation. 2 minutes, Victor says finally. I'll wait in the carriage. Do not make me come back for you, Eleanor. As soon as Victor descends the stairs, Catherine grabs Eleanor's hands. Eleanor, what's happening? The mirror. He had no reflection. And the way he spoke to the photographer. I don't know what's happening, Eleanor whispers, her voice trembling. Catherine, I'm frightened. These past months, it's as if I've been in a dream. When Victor looks at me, speaks to me, I can't think clearly. I do whatever he asks, without question. You don't have to go with him, Catherine says urgently. Whatever he is, he's not human, Eleanor says, her hand flying to her collar. She pulls it aside, revealing 2 small puncture marks on her neck, partially healed. Each night he comes to me. He drinks my blood, Catherine, and part of me wants him to. When he does it, I feel, I can't describe it, ecstasy and pain together. Catherine recoils in horror. Eleanor, this can't be real. It's like something from a Gothic novel. It's real, Eleanor insists. And now I'm his wife. He says soon I'll be like him. That on our wedding night he'll complete the transformation. Before Catherine can respond, they hear Victor's voice calling from outside, his tone imperious. Eleanor, come now. Eleanor flinches. I have to go. His will is too strong for me to resist. Fight it, Catherine urges. Stay here. We'll protect you. Eleanor shakes her head sadly. You can't protect me. No one can. He's too powerful. She presses something into Catherine's hand, a small leather-bound journal. My diary. I've written everything in it, from the beginning. If I don't return, at least someone will know the truth. Eleanor. Victor's voice is closer now, at the foot of the stairs. Goodbye, Catherine, Eleanor whispers, embracing her friend one last time before hurrying down the stairs. Catherine follows at a distance, watching from an upstairs window as Victor hands Eleanor into a sleek black carriage. Just before entering the carriage himself, Victor looks up, directly at Catherine's window, as if he knows she's watching. His lips curve in a cold smile that doesn't reach his eyes, and he makes a small, mocking bow before disappearing into the carriage. As the carriage pulls away, Catherine clutches Eleanor's diary to her chest, a sense of dread settling over her. She knows with terrible certainty that she will never see her friend again, at least, not as the Eleanor she once knew. That evening, as the last of the wedding guests depart and the Pembroke household settles into an uneasy quiet, Catherine retires to her room to read Eleanor's diary. The journal begins 6 months earlier, with Eleanor's first meeting with Victor at the winter solstice ball. Her initial impression of him as charming, sophisticated, and intensely attractive. But as the entries continue, a disturbing pattern emerges. Eleanor writes of feeling strangely compelled by Victor's presence, unable to refuse his attentions, even when part of her wishes to. She describes dreams of him appearing in her bedroom at night, dreams so vivid she would wake with unexplained fatigue and increasingly small wounds on her neck that she attributed to insect bites. The later entries become more disjointed, Eleanor's usually neat handwriting growing erratic as she describes feeling increasingly weak and dependent on Victor, craving his presence even as she fears it. The final entry, dated just 3 days before the wedding, contains a desperate plea. If anyone finds this, please help me. I fear that by marrying Victor I am consigning myself to a fate worse than death, yet I cannot resist him. His will overwhelms mine, his eyes command me, his voice enslaves me. And God help me, part of me wants what he offers, eternal life, eternal night, eternal hunger. Catherine, if you are reading this, forgive me for not being stronger, and remember me as I was, not as what I will become. Catherine closes the diary, her hands shaking. The rational part of her mind insists that this cannot be real. Vampires are creatures of folklore and penny dreadfuls, not beings that exist in the modern world of 1891. With its electric lights and scientific advancements. Yet she cannot deny what she saw with her own eyes, Victor's missing reflection, his unnatural control over the photographer, the strange wounds on Eleanor's neck. The evidence points to one horrifying conclusion. Victor Blackwood is a vampire, and he has taken Eleanor to transform her into a creature like himself. Catherine knows what she must do. Despite the lateness of the hour, she dresses quickly and makes her way to Judge Pembroke's study. where she finds him sitting alone, a glass of brandy in his hand, staring into the fire. "Judge Pembroke," she says, her voice steadier than she feels, "I need to speak with you about Eleanor." "About Victor Blackwood." The judge looks up, his face drawn with worry. "Catherine, what is it?" She takes a deep breath. "I know this will sound incredible, but I believe Eleanor is in grave danger. Victor Blackwood is not what he seems. He's not human." Judge Pembroke's expression shifts from concern to disbelief. "What nonsense is this? Did you notice, sir, that he cast no reflection in the mirror today? Did you see how he controlled Mr. Sullivan with just his voice? Have you wondered why Eleanor has grown so pale and weak since he began courting her?" The judge rises to his feet, anger replacing his initial shock. "This is outrageous, Miss Winters. My daughter has married a gentleman of means and standing. If you're suggesting some sort of supernatural explanation for what was simply a strange incident at the wedding breakfast, I must ask you to keep such hysterical notions to yourself." "But sir, Eleanor gave me her diary," Catherine persists, holding out the leather-bound book. "Read it yourself. She describes how he's been visiting her at night, drinking her blood." "Enough!" Judge Pembroke thunders, slamming his glass down on the desk. "I will not listen to such deranged fantasies. Eleanor has been somewhat delicate lately, perhaps anemic as the doctor suggested, but to leap from that to vampire stories, it's absurd. Then how do you explain his lack of reflection?" Catherine demands. The judge's face reddens. "A trick of the light, as Victor said, or perhaps the mirror was flawed. There are rational explanations, Miss Winters, for everything that occurred today." Catherine realizes she will get nowhere with the judge. Like so many in Blackwood Haven, he has fallen under Victor's influence, unable or unwilling to see the truth before his eyes. "I understand, sir," she says quietly. "I apologize for disturbing you." She leaves the study, but instead of returning to her room, she makes a decision. If Judge Pembroke won't help his daughter, then Catherine must try to save Eleanor herself. The next morning, Catherine tells the Pembrokes that she has received an urgent telegram requiring her to return to Boston immediately. They are too preoccupied with the aftermath of the wedding to question her sudden departure. Within hours, Catherine is on a train, not to Boston but to New York, where Victor had mentioned he and Eleanor would be staying before boarding a ship to Europe. In New York, Catherine searches hotel after hotel, finally locating the Blackwoods at the Grand Windsor Hotel on Fifth Avenue. The desk clerk is reluctant to provide information until Catherine claims to be Eleanor's sister, bringing urgent family news. "Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood are in the bridal suite, miss," the clerk tells her, though I should mention they left strict instructions not to be disturbed before sunset. Sunset, of course. Catherine thanks the clerk and makes her way upstairs, her heart pounding. She has come armed, not with steaks and garlic as in the stories, but with something she hopes might be more effective: the truth and her love for her friend. Outside the bridal suite, Catherine hesitates, then knocks firmly on the door. There is no response. She knocks again, louder this time. Still nothing. The corridor is empty. Taking a deep breath, Catherine tries the door handle. To her surprise, it turns easily in her hand. The door swings open to reveal a luxurious suite, heavy curtains drawn against the afternoon sun, the room in near total darkness. "Eleanor?" Catherine calls softly, stepping inside. "It's Catherine. I've come to help you." As her eyes adjust to the darkness, Catherine makes out a large four-poster bed on the far side of the room. A figure lies upon it, still as death. Catherine approaches cautiously. "Eleanor?" The figure on the bed doesn't move. Catherine reaches out, touching a cold hand, and Eleanor's eyes fly open. Not the blue eyes Catherine knows, but eyes with a reddish gleam in their depths. "Catherine?" Eleanor's voice is weak, confused. "You shouldn't be here. He'll be angry." "I've come to take you home," Catherine says, helping Eleanor to sit up. She's dressed in a white nightgown, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Her skin is deathly pale, and when she turns her head, Catherine sees fresh puncture wounds on her neck. "It's too late," Eleanor whispers. "The transformation has begun. Last night, he made me drink his blood after he took mine. He says when I die, I'll rise again as he did." Horror washes over Catherine. "You're not going to die. I won't let you." Eleanor smiles sadly. "I'm already dying, Catherine. I can feel it. My heart beats slower each hour." "Then we'll find a doctor, someone who can help." "No doctor can help me now." Eleanor's gaze shifts to the window where the heavy curtains block the sunlight. He sleeps during the day in a special box he brought with him, filled with the soil of his homeland. He said it protects him from the sun's deadly rays. Catherine thinks quickly. Where is this box? The adjoining room. But Catherine, you don't understand. Even if you could destroy him, it's too late for me. I've tasted his blood. The change has begun. A plan forms in Catherine's mind. Desperate, perhaps futile, but the only hope she can see. Eleanor, listen to me. Do you want this? Do you want to become like him? Tears fill Eleanor's strange, reddish eyes. No, I don't. But I don't want to die either. Then trust me, Catherine says, squeezing her friend's cold hand. Can you walk? Eleanor nods weakly. Catherine helps her from the bed, supporting her as they move slowly toward the door. Where are we going? Eleanor asks, her voice barely a whisper. To find someone who might be able to help you. Catherine has no clear idea who this might be, but she knows they must get Eleanor away from Victor before sunset. They've barely reached the sitting room of the suite when the door to the adjoining room crashes open. Victor stands there, his face contorted with rage, his eyes glowing red in the dim light. What is this? He snarls, his voice no longer smooth and cultured but guttural, inhuman. You dare to take what is mine? Catherine pushes Eleanor behind her, facing Victor with more courage than she feels. She doesn't belong to you. She's not a possession. Victor laughs, a chilling sound devoid of humor. She is my bride, bound to me by blood and law. Soon she will be as I am, immortal and powerful beyond human imagining. A monster, you mean? Catherine retorts. A parasite that feeds on the living. Victor's face twists with fury. You know nothing of what I am, what I offer. Eternal life, eternal youth, powers beyond your comprehension. At what cost? Eleanor's soul, her humanity. Such quaint concerns. Victor sneers, moving closer. Catherine notices with horror that his feet don't quite touch the ground. He seems to float inches above the carpet. Humanity is a brief candle, snuffed out in decades. What I offer lasts forever. Eleanor clings to Catherine, trembling. I don't want it, Victor. I never wanted it. You forced your will upon me, made me think I loved you. Victor's eyes narrow. It's too late for regrets, my bride. The transformation has begun. By midnight, your mortal life will end, and your true existence will begin. He extends a hand toward Eleanor, his voice taking on that hypnotic quality Catherine had witnessed before. Come to me now. Leave this foolish friend to her brief, insignificant life. Catherine feels Eleanor stiffen beside her, feels her friend's will beginning to crumble under Victor's influence. Desperately, she reaches into her pocket, pulling out the small silver cross her grandmother had given her years ago, a talisman she had brought on impulse, remembering the old stories. Stay back, she warns, holding the cross before her. Victor hisses, recoiling from the silver symbol. You think such primitive superstitions can stop me? I am ancient, girl. I have walked this earth for centuries while your ancestors cowered in the dark, fearing creatures like me. But the cross has given Catherine a moment's advantage. With her free hand, she grasps the heavy curtain cord and yanks with all her strength. The curtains part, flooding the room with late afternoon sunlight. Victor screams, an inhuman sound that makes the crystal chandelier above them vibrate. Where the sunlight touches his skin, it smokes and blisters. He retreats into the shadows of the adjoining room, his face contorted with pain and rage. This isn't over, he snarls from the darkness. She is mine. The sun will set and I will come for her. No matter where you hide, I will find her. Come quickly, Catherine urges Eleanor, supporting her friend as they hurry from the suite into the hotel corridor. Eleanor is weak, barely able to walk, her breathing labored. The sun, she whispers, flinching as they pass a window. It burns my eyes. Catherine's heart sinks at this evidence of Eleanor's transformation, but she presses on, half carrying her friend to the elevator, and then through the hotel lobby. The desk clerk calls after them, but Catherine ignores him, focusing only on getting Eleanor to safety before sunset. Outside, she hails a hansom cab, giving the driver the address of St. Patrick's Cathedral. If anywhere in New York might offer sanctuary against a creature like Victor, surely a house of God would. The cathedral is quiet when they arrive, only a few parishioners kneeling in prayer, a priest lighting candles near the altar. Catherine helps Eleanor to a pew at the back, alarmed at how much weaker her friend seems, how labored her breathing has become. Wait here, she whispers. I'll speak to the priest. But Eleanor clutches her hand. It's too late, Catherine. I can feel it. My heart. It's slowing. He's calling to me even now. Indeed, Eleanor's skin has taken on a waxy pallor, her eyes sunken, her lips bloodless. Catherine touches her friend's wrist, feeling for a pulse, finding only the faintest flutter. "Father," Catherine calls desperately to the priest. "Please, we need help." The priest approaches, his expression concerned. "What troubles you, my child?" How can she explain? What priest in this modern age would believe in vampires? Yet Catherine must try. "Father, my friend is... she's been cursed. A man, a creature, has done something to her blood. She's dying, but it's not a natural death." The priest looks skeptical but kneels beside Eleanor, taking her cold hand in his. "My daughter, are you in pain?" Eleanor's eyes flutter open, that strange reddish gleam more pronounced now. "Father, I feel him calling me. When I die, I fear I won't find rest. I'll become like him." The priest's expression changes, a glimmer of understanding crossing his face. "Like him? What do you mean, child?" "A vampire," Catherine says bluntly. "Please, Father, I know how it sounds, but I've seen him. He has no reflection. Sunlight burns his skin. He drinks blood to survive." To Catherine's surprise, the priest doesn't dismiss her claims. Instead, he crosses himself, his face grave. "In my homeland of Ireland, such creatures are not merely legends. My grandmother spoke of encountering one in her youth." He studies Eleanor's face, gently tilting her head to examine the puncture wounds on her neck. "How long has this been happening?" "Months," Catherine says. "But last night, she says he made her drink his blood." The priest's expression grows even more somber. "Then the corruption has entered her veins. There are old rituals, prayers that might help, but I cannot promise they will work. Please," Catherine begs, "try anything. We can't let her become like him." The priest nods, rising. "I will need holy water, blessed salt, and—" He breaks off as the cathedral doors burst open, a cold wind sweeping down the nave, extinguishing candles as it passes. Victor stands in the doorway, his face still blistered from the sunlight but healing even as they watch. Outside, the sun has set, and darkness has given him back his power. "Eleanor," he calls, his voice echoing through the cathedral. "Come to me, my bride." Eleanor stirs, her body responding to his call even as her mind resists. "No," she whimpers. "I don't want to." The priest steps forward, holding up his crucifix. "Creature of darkness, you have no power in this holy place. Be gone." Victor laughs, stepping into the cathedral without hesitation. "Your faith is weak, priest. Your symbols empty. This is an age of science, of reason. How strong is your belief, truly?" The priest falters, doubt crossing his face, and in that moment of weakness, Victor strikes. Moving with supernatural speed, he crosses the nave, knocking the priest aside with inhuman strength, sending the old man crashing into a row of pews. "Catherine, run," Eleanor gasps, using the last of her strength to push her friend away. "Save yourself." But Catherine stands her ground, placing herself between Victor and Eleanor. "You can't have her." Victor's smile is terrible to behold, his canine teeth now visibly elongated into fangs. "Brave, foolish girl, do you think you can stop me? I, who have outlived empires, who have seen civilizations rise and fall like waves upon the shore? Perhaps not," Catherine admits. "But I can try." She reaches into her pocket, withdrawing a small silver flask, holy water the priest had given her while Eleanor slept on the train from Blackwood Haven. With a silent prayer, she unscrews the cap and flings the contents into Victor's face. The effect is instantaneous. Where the blessed water touches his skin, it sizzles and burns, raising blisters far worse than those caused by sunlight. Victor howls in agony, clawing at his face, momentarily blinded. Catherine seizes her chance, grabbing Eleanor's arm. "Come, now!" But Eleanor doesn't move. Her eyes are closed, her breathing stopped. Catherine feels for a pulse again and finds nothing. Eleanor's heart has ceased to beat. "No," Catherine whispers. "Eleanor, no." Victor, recovering from the holy water attack, laughs triumphantly through his pain. "Too late. She's mine now. Her mortal life has ended. When she wakes, she will be reborn as my true bride, a creature of the night like me." The priest has regained his feet, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "There is still time," he tells Catherine urgently. Before she rises, the old ways. Victor lunges toward them, but the priest holds up his crucifix again, this time with unwavering faith. "In the name of God, I command you to stand back, creature of darkness." This time, the cross glows with a strange light, and Victor cannot approach. He snarls in frustration, circling like a predator denied its prey. The priest kneels beside Eleanor's body, producing a small vial of oil. Extreme unction, he explains to Catherine. The last rites. It may save her soul, if not her body. As the priest administers the sacrament, Catherine watches Victor. His blistered face is healing rapidly, his strength clearly returning. The priest's crucifix still holds him at bay. But for how long? What happens now? Catherine asks, her voice breaking. Will she rise as one of them? The priest finishes the ritual, making the sign of the cross on Eleanor's forehead. That depends on many things. Her will, her faith, the strength of the vampire's blood within her. As if in response to his words, Eleanor's body suddenly convulses, her back arching off the pew. Her eyes fly open, now completely red, no trace of blue remaining, and a terrible, inhuman cry escapes her lips. Eleanor! Catherine reaches for her friend, but the priest holds her back. Wait, he warns. She is between worlds now, neither fully alive nor fully transformed. Eleanor's body continues to twist and writhe, as if fighting some internal battle. Victor watches with keen interest, a smile playing around his lips. Fight it all you want, my bride, he calls. The thirst will win in the end. It always does. Eleanor's movements become more violent, her fingers curling into claws, her teeth lengthening visibly into fangs. The priest continues praying, sprinkling holy water around her convulsing form. Suddenly, Eleanor goes still. Her eyes close, then open again, blue once more, with no trace of red. She takes a shuddering breath, then another. Catherine, she whispers, her voice weak but human. What's happening? Victor roars with rage. Impossible. The transformation had begun. The priest looks as surprised as Victor, but quickly recovers. A miracle, he murmurs. Her soul was stronger than his corruption. Catherine embraces her friend, tears streaming down her face. Eleanor, you're alive, truly alive, but their relief is short-lived. Victor, enraged by the failure of his plans, makes a final desperate lunge toward them, breaking through the priest's spiritual barrier by sheer force of will. If I cannot have her as my bride, he snarls, then none shall have her at all. His hands, now transformed into claws, reach for Eleanor's throat. Catherine throws herself between them, and Victor's claws rake across her shoulder, drawing blood. The scent of fresh blood seems to drive Victor into a frenzy. His human appearance falls away entirely, revealing the monster beneath, pale, gaunt, with glowing red eyes and elongated fangs. The priest shouts a prayer in Latin, flinging the last of his holy water at the vampire. Victor screams as the blessed liquid burns him, but he doesn't retreat. In that moment of chaos, Eleanor acts. With strength born of desperation, she grabs the silver cross from the priest's hand and drives it directly into Victor's heart. Victor's scream echoes through the cathedral, a sound of such inhuman agony that the stained glass windows vibrate in their frames. His body begins to crumble, like ancient parchment turning to dust, starting from the wound and spreading outward. Within seconds, all that remains of Victor Blackwood is a pile of ash on the cathedral floor and a heavy gold ring with a blood-red stone. Eleanor collapses beside Catherine, both of them bloodied and exhausted but alive, truly alive. The priest kneels beside them, offering prayers of thanksgiving and protection. Is it over? Eleanor asks, her voice stronger now. Is he truly gone? The priest studies the pile of ash, then carefully picks up the ring with a cloth, never touching it directly. His physical form is destroyed, yes, but creatures like him, their evil can linger in objects they valued, in places they inhabited. He wraps the ring tightly in the cloth. This must be properly cleansed and buried in consecrated ground, with specific rituals. And Eleanor? Catherine asks anxiously. She drank his blood. Will she? The corruption was purged before it could fully take hold, the priest assures them. But she should remain in the care of the church for a time, to ensure the darkness is completely gone from her system. In the weeks that follow, Eleanor slowly recovers her strength under the care of the nuns at a convent outside New York. The puncture wounds on her neck heal, leaving only faint scars, and the strange pallor leaves her skin, color returning to her cheeks. Catherine stays by her side throughout her recovery, writing to the Pembrokes with a carefully edited version of events. That Victor had fallen ill and died suddenly, and that Eleanor was recovering from both the shock and her own illness at a retreat recommended by their doctor. Judge Pembroke arrives in New York a month later, shocked by his son-in-law's death but relieved to find his daughter recovering. If he notices the crucifix Eleanor now wears at all times, or the way she flinches at the mention of Victor's name, he attributes it to the trauma of losing her husband so soon after their wedding. By autumn, Eleanor is well enough to return to Blackwood Haven with her father and Catherine. Thornfield Manor stands empty once more, its doors and windows boarded up on the advice of the priest, who traveled from New York to perform certain rituals within its walls before sealing it against entry. The townspeople whisper, of course, about the strange circumstances of the wedding, about Mr. Sullivan, the photographer who left town immediately after the ceremony and was later found dead in Boston, drained of blood, about the foreign nobleman who appeared and disappeared so quickly. But such gossip eventually fades as new scandals and stories take its place. Eleanor never fully reveals to her parents what transpired during her brief marriage. Some truths, she decides, are too terrible to share with those who have no framework to understand them. But she does write it all down, every detail, in a new journal that she entrusts to Catherine, with instructions that it be preserved for future generations as a warning. There are things in this world beyond rational explanation, she writes in the journal's final entry, forces of darkness that prey upon the living. I encountered such a force and nearly lost my soul to it. If you are reading this, know that the old stories contain more truth than our modern minds wish to acknowledge. Beware those who cast no reflection, who shun the daylight, who charm with words but chill with their touch. They walk among us still, these creatures of the night, and they are hungry. Catherine helps Eleanor rebuild her life, watching with relief as her friend gradually returns to her former self, though something in Eleanor's eyes will always remain changed, a shadow of knowledge that cannot be unlearned. Together they establish a small charitable foundation dedicated to helping young women escape from harmful relationships, its true purpose known only to them. And on Eleanor's dressing table sits a small silver hand mirror, a gift from Catherine on the first anniversary of their escape from Victor Blackwood, a reminder that sometimes what is not reflected reveals more truth than what is. In later years, long after Eleanor and Catherine have passed away, the journal will be discovered in an attic trunk by Eleanor's great-granddaughter. She will read it with initial skepticism that gradually gives way to disturbing recognition, for she has recently met a charming, sophisticated gentleman with intense eyes and cold hands who has asked her to dinner. She will decline the invitation, and instead, she will travel to the site where Thornfield Manor once stood, now long demolished. There, buried beneath a rose bush, she will find a small box containing a heavy gold ring with a blood-red stone, its hiding place revealed in her great-grandmother's journal. Wisely, she will leave it undisturbed, respecting Eleanor's final written warning. Some evils sleep but never die. Let them rest in darkness, forgotten and undisturbed, for to awaken them is to invite them in once more. And as she walks away from the site, she could swear she hears a voice on the wind, calling a name from long ago, Eleanor, my bride. But she does not look back, remembering the journal's final line. The dead have patience. Do not acknowledge their call.